Welcome to the Ethics Experts, where we're elevating ethics and compliance and HR to the strategic level it's supposed to be.
Hey, welcome to the Ethics Experts. If it's your first time joining us, welcome. And if you are a returning subscriber, hey friend, you look amazing today. I hope you're having an amazing day. You see what happens when you subscribe to the Ethics Experts? You get a bonus greeting on every single episode. So hit that subscribe button and join us as we change the world by fixing our workplaces. I am here today with Kirsten Taylor-Billups. She's the systems of, what is it again?
Systems Director
of Senior Services for CommonSpirit Health. I'm sorry, I can't even read my own writing sometimes. Super excited to get you on. I love healthcare. Our organization helps a lot of healthcare organizations. It's such an important part of our economy. And every time I have one of these podcasts with a healthcare professional, there's always so much that I learn. So super excited to get you on. How's your day going so far?
Oh, it's going well.
So I think a lot of people don't know what it is you do. Some people can't even read their own writing about what it is you do. So tell us about what a day or a month in the life of Kirsten looks like.
Okay. Well, senior services at CommonSpirit Health involves the post-acute arena with regards to, I do compliance reviews for nursing homes, assisted livings, memory care units of the health institution I work for. Primarily some of the same issues that other venues deal with as far as, proper payment, accurate documentation, all of that comes into play in my role as a compliance officer for CommonSpirit.
So that's a lot. That's a lot of things that you have to cover. So you're kind of like a SWAT team that goes into these different facilities and kind of checks out how compliant they are in all these different areas.
Mm-hmm. That's right. And actually, since COVID, it's been all remote, and did not realize that it could be done as efficiently as long as the systems are already online as far as patient information, health records. I can do my virtual interviews with the leadership staff to gather information. So everything can be done remotely. You don't necessarily have to go into the facilities themselves to conduct these reviews.
Okay. So how has your job changed then? Sounds like they're just making you do more stuff now. You don't have to travel so much.
Well, I think it allows me to focus more on, how to get the information in a shorter period of time. Because the facilities are busy, managing patients, taking care of COVID patients. Their hands are full. So I'm trying to incorporate into their schedules without creating too much of a disruption, yet get the information needed to allow them to identify some areas in which they can enhance their performance, their services that they're providing to the residents and to the community, to make them do better with the job they're already doing.
So you have to be pretty dialed in all these different facets of the compliance game. Is that a challenge for you to stay up on all those things, or is that something that you've just been able to absorb over time?
Over time, I kind of keep myself up to date with regards to looking at the OIG's website to find out what are the areas of focus that the government has for our arena of post-acute care. And then I direct my attention to those areas as well when I'm doing my reviews. For instance, when COVID was hot and heavy, of course, that's going to be an area of focus for the government to see how are we managing our COVID positive patients to reduce infections of the COVID, keep it from spreading. Mm-hmm. So it's an element of, reimbursement, but also clinical care. Are we providing on both sides? Are we taking care of the patients? Are we documenting like we should? And are we billing accordingly?
So how did you get into this game? Let's talk about that, and I want to go back. I want to go back to a young Kirsten. Uh-huh. You presumably weren't dreaming of being a compliance person when you were a child. Talk to me about kind of those foundational years. What was it like growing up, and what's the story of how you got into the compliance game?
Primarily, I started out in nursing. My mother was an LPN and an RN, so I realized you could create yourself, a combined arena of degrees. So I went into nursing because, something that she enjoyed. And of course, you want to kind of mimic what you are exposed to. So I went to Ursuline College, private nursing college, got my registered nurse degree. And then I went into law school. and I got a healthcare degree in healthcare law. And after that, I was able to combine the two and do compliance as far as from a different perspective. I did it from quality assurance is where I started. Then being a director of nursing in the post-acute arena. Then I went into risk management for several years, like 14 years I was in risk management. So it kind of is a culmination of a lot of things that built me up into being a compliance officer. I don't have my license to practice law, so I had to think creatively about how I can utilize my law degree without the non-traditional route. And that was when I did my research and found out about corporate compliance. I knew about it, but you can't get into getting certified in compliance until you have a job in compliance. So it's like a catch-22.
Totally, yeah.
So just so happened when I decided to apply for a position as a VP of nursing, the CEO at the time said, I have something else for you. And it was corporate compliance. It's just like the chips fell in place.
Whenever I talk to somebody who has this sort of unique background of all these different flavor profiles, as I call them, they always have a really unique perspective in their role. I'd love to hear a little bit about how, so you have the nursing, you have the law, you have now the compliance, you have the sort of administrative, you have the risk, you have the quality assurance. Talk to me about how you've used these different tools and how you pull these tools out of your toolbox on an ongoing basis that allow you to be maybe a little bit more effective. And yeah, let's start there.
Okay. Primarily quality assurance is a form of compliance, but from a details perspective, from a clinical aspect. Did you cross your T's and dot your I's when it came to the documentation? That's where it first started for me. And then went into risk management, and that allowed me to expand my scope and look at how is the nursing homes actually run, from the administrative side to maintenance to pharmacy to billing. So I had to know what are the areas of risk in all those various departments in preparation for survey and maintaining patient care and good outcomes. So with regards to compliance, it just kind of pulled it all together for me and added another element of looking at the reimbursement aspect of it. We've been doing all this other thing. It was a nice buildup of information and experience that allowed me to feel more effective in compliance. So now I'm looking at the billing things to make sure we've got all this other stuff in order. So now are we billing like we should? Are we keeping up with the regulations? Are we keeping up with the codes and things that are required to make sure we're billing effectively? Like with the COVID, the public health emergency, there are new codes that were introduced. Does our billing department know how to utilize those codes? So I have to kind of cause me to be quick on catching up on new regulations and guidelines and educating the facilities on how to use those as well. So I'm able to build up on what I've already learned.
So let me ask you this: where, in your mind, are there sort of clear lines between the billing side of it and the policy compliance and the regulatory compliance and whatever, or does it all just is it just kind of a mosaic that all kind of blends together and you can just algorithmically, for lack of a better term, understand where those pain points are?
Right. They're interdependent upon one another. And I think a lot of people think that it's very defined and definite and outside of one another, but they are combined one to another. And it helps me to explain how that happens. Why is there a risk in what I'm doing on this piece of paper? I'm putting the codes in based on what the documentation is provided for me. How is that a risk? I'm able to explain that. So I do a lot of education, and I let them know we're on the same team. I'm here to make you do better at what you're already doing, to help you to make sure we aren't missing any, critical elements so we don't get ourselves in trouble. If we do, we self-correct, which is something that's allowed to limit any type of liability, but we're human. We make mistakes.
Right. So when I think about, you kind of touched on something that I think a lot of folks in your position deal with, which is sort of the natural defensiveness that people may feel from somebody from the outside coming in. And it technically is sort of being critical of their work. You're at least analyzing it, right? You're at least judging it. What techniques have you, and these are also compliance people to some degree, right? I mean, these are folks that are kind of in the. It's almost like you're kind of like internal affairs, is what it sounds like. So, in a good way. But what techniques have you realized, or have you been able to bring to bear effectively that makes that interaction easier? Because it's really hard to get traction when somebody feels like you're against them.
Right. Some of the techniques have helped me to let them know I'm a team. I'm on the same team as them. I'm here to self-identify and help us to self-correct. They're the experts in what they do. I'm here to make sure that we're doing it to the highest level possible. They're educating me as well as I'm educating them. So it's a two-way street in that regard. In order to get the buy-in, to get them to make the corrections that need to be made, and always point out what they're doing right before you start pointing out what's being done wrong. Because you'll get people to shut you down real quick. You start saying, you're not doing this, you're not doing that. What am I doing right first, so I can at least trust you that you know what you're talking about?
Right. Yeah, being able to recognize that and do a little bit of humanizing of yourself kind of allows you to probably remind that, hey, we're kind of all supposed to be rowing in the same direction,
Right. And then I say, I'm here for you to show me what you do on a day-to-day basis and educate me, and then I can let you know if we're missing a few steps along the way, or if things change since the last time you looked at the latest guidelines, because they're ever changing in post-acute care. As soon as you get the hang of it, there's it's time to change it.
When you're doing these reviews, or when you're assessing a program or a location, do you tend to see trends of like, these are pain points, or these are hot spots, or these are risk areas that I'm always, these are the rocks I'm going to look under first? And if so, what are those things?
Right. Usually the trends are pretty consistent throughout. Once you find one building with those issues due to changeover in staff, there are times where staff will bring over procedures and policies that they use from another employer that, we have to correct or let them know this is how we do it in our facility. So it's a learning curve, I think, that creates most of the trends that are identified. But usually they fall in line what's going on actively right then and there in long-term care. From a governmental standpoint, as far as some of the most common issues, abuse, neglect always stays in the forefront. That one doesn't ever go away.
So tell me some more about that.
Primarily with regards to CMS, there's expectation that we treat our, family members and loved ones in long-term care with respect and dignity. And because sometimes staff get too busy, they're overwhelmed, they have more, patients than they should, or are they able to manage, and they get kind of quick with how they do things, and they have create shortcuts. And it's to the point where it's neglectful of the patient. You're not able to provide the services they need, or you're not taking them into consideration when you're trying to make decisions or help them to get things done. You're moving them too fast. It may be perceived as you're being abrupt or physically aggressive with them. And because they're older, they may feel that you're being rough with them. They want to report it to the state. They can do that on an anonymous basis, or they can tell their name. And the state will come in, no matter what the issue is, and investigate the matters to make sure that and there are some legitimate concerns out there as far as how aged people are being treated in nursing homes. So it's never going to leave off the radar as an area of focus from the government standpoint. They have hotlines that you can call into anonymously and report certain concerns to, whether you know the person directly or you just have an inkling something's not right. There's a 1-800 number that OIG has available to people to call in.
But I mean,
so
you want to
curtail.
Yeah, and you want to probably get out ahead of that, of course, and prevent that instead of being reactionary and so forth.
Right.
What are some of the early warning signs that you end up seeing at a particular facility, or what are the rumblings? What are the canaries in the coal mine that you can address before you get the OIG showing up, at the location?
Well, making sure that we already have guidelines in place to self-identify, and do the staff know what to do to help prevent burnout, to address staffing shortages, to maintain we have good outcomes with regards to the patients we take care of. really, we shouldn't be surprised by anything that a surveyor comes in and asks us, because we should know it before they do. We've been there all day.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
we
that's
should have
right.
our own investigation of the matter in place. You pull it out as an investigation, show the surveyor. That's the way it should go. It shouldn't be new information to us that a surveyor is bringing to our attention. We should be telling the surveyor what's going on.
How big of a role does the local culture of a particular facility play in the overall ethical environment, or the culture, or the compliance risks? And how do you can you feel that when you go in from one facility to the next?
You can. It's.
I guess it's probably a little harder because you're virtual now. Yeah.
Right. But, I think when they know that you're one of the team members, the defensive measures come down and they let you know, this is what I'm dealing with on a day-to-day basis. This is why I'm, not quite dotting my I's and crossing my T's like I should. I don't have the support I need, or I don't have the staff I need. What can you do to help facilitate that? Mm-hmm. And so the objective is to maintain, good quality care, make sure the employees as well as the patients receive the resources they need to, have the optimal situation take place. You can feel it. The tension is there, and they're sometimes frustrated enough where they just kind of vent to you, in hopes that you can provide them some relief or some answers to the issues that they're dealing with at that particular time, or let them know you're not alone. There are other facilities that are dealing with some of the same issues, and this is how we're approaching it.
Okay, I want to kind of pivot a little bit into the billing piece of the puzzle, because that's not something I'm, super well versed in, but I feel like I'd love to learn a little bit more about it. So when you're thinking about, when you're coming in and these are essentially like billing audits, yeah? Mm-hmm. So yes, how are you thinking about it? Are you thinking about it from a revenue optimization standpoint? Or are you thinking of it from a, I don't want to get in trouble and have like reimbursement risk standpoint? Which side gets
the latter?
The latter.
The latter part. You're trying to prevent any type of reimbursement issues after the fact. So you're looking to make sure that the required documentation is there. If it's not, where are we falling short? Where's the education lacking to make sure that we are not making these mistakes on a repetitive basis? It might be a one-off situation. Yeah. And it's addressed, and then we can move forward. But if it's
how are you doing
trend,
that? How are you doing that?
How are you doing? It's a one-on-one. If it's a one-off type situation, you're educating the departments in that particular facility or building, and making sure you monitor and audit to make sure they've caught on to the education that was provided and making the corrections. Mm-hmm. Or if it's a trend, we're going at a higher level. We're talking to the executive leaders of the different facilities, because I cover at least 30. And we make sure that they provide an overall collective education on how to correct these issues, so that we can, prevent any type of issues and mitigate any type of repayment on our part. If we do have to have a repayment, we make that repayment. We notify CMS. We goofed in this particular area. We are self-correcting. This is the money we owe you back because we didn't quite have things on point like we should have.
So are you just making a selection of bills and you're just checking them, or do you have software that's doing it, or what?
It's a snapshot list of patients that are skilled. Mainly they're skilled residents, because they are at a higher level of reimbursement than the average. We also use resources that the government made available to us called the PEPPER reports. And those actually show when your facility triggers at a higher level of making mistakes when it comes to billing and coding. So that's another resource for us.
So, your job, let's just do a little thought experiment here. If you were able to wave a magic wand and solve one big problem in terms that, you are seeing over and over and over again, what would that thing be? You know what I'm saying? Like, what's one thing that, 80% of the issues are attached to these 20% of, problems. Turnover. What's that big turnover?
Turnover. Yep. And staffing. That is one of the biggest contributors due to lack of knowledge on some aspects of it, coming with already preconceived ideas of how to do things. Different companies have different objectives. But but we try to educate them on our standards and what the expectations are from our facility. And I feel very good with the company I work for that they maintain high standards.
Do you think management across the board understands the true cost of turnover? And if you think they do?
They do. Yes, they do.
Why is it so high then? If everybody gets it? I'm not saying at your organization. I don't know what it is.
It's challenging. Healthcare right now is very challenging. When you do have staff, it's just the burnout aspect of things. Dealing with the level of care needs of our patients are getting younger and sicker than they ever have.
Really?
Yeah. And long-term care doesn't necessarily mean they're, an elderly person that's in the nursing home. It may be somebody in their 40s who just has a lot of comorbidities and ailments that keep them from taking care of themselves.
Interesting.
So, yeah, you got a lot of younger people than we ever have in long-term care. Some people that don't have any place to live that utilize long-term care as a resource, as a place to stay, even though they medically are stable.
So I think turnover is like a blight on our economy, and I think it's something that the cost of which gets underestimated. I think everybody knows that it's high, but I don't think we really can put our finger on what the true cost of it is. I'd love to hear a little bit about how, the last couple of years for healthcare have been absolutely brutal, right? We went from COVID, and then things got a little bit better, things started to loosen up, and then we had this great resignation. And from some studies I've read, healthcare was hit. It was hit real hard in COVID for sure, but then also with the Great Resignation and all of that turnover, it was hit of, it was like one of the highest industries that really got blasted by that. Where do you think we are in that process? Do you see it starting to get a little bit better? Do you feel like it's just kind of, this is the new normal, and it's just like people are just used to kind of turning over? This burnout is, they kind of hop the fence to greener pastures and they expect the burnout to be better, and it's really just kind of more of the same. Like where is it at?
Well, you pretty much hit the nail on the head. They're just kind of jumping from one to another, and some may be worse than others. But, healthcare is adjusting as we have to. We don't have the staff. Then sometimes we have to close units. Beds have to be closed out because we don't have the requisite amount of staff to take care of the patients. So they may have to go to our competitor to be taken care of. If our house is full, all our beds are full with what we can take into care and handle in a safe manner. And then there are some nursing homes that are actually closing. Reimbursement's not, ideal. It's not always going as high as we'd like it to. So that plays into the staffing, game as well. Mm-hmm. But yet the quality and outcomes needs to be the same or better. So we're having to do the same work or more with less resources. So we're making adjustments. It's got to come from somewhere. To your point, it's got to come from somewhere, and the first place it comes from is from the employees, and which again kind of kicks off this There's this cycle of burnout, and it gets worse, and it's a really. And then the reimbursement aspect of it, even with that, we're having to pay off higher wages, to attract the talent, but then that's a game too. You're just hopping from the one employer to another based on an extra $1 or $2, but that's not maybe the ideal situation. That shouldn't be your main motivation. It should be, taking care of others to the highest level you're able to, regardless of the dollar amount, because that could be your mother or your father in that, hospital bed or that nursing home bed.
You just touched on something interesting, and it's the sort of, age-old, built-in sort of inherent conflict in for-profit healthcare organizations where you have to turn a profit. Nobody is compelled to be a nurse or be a long-term care provider. And there's all these sort of competing factors, This reimbursement thing is a real killer. I don't know. My heart goes out to healthcare workers, healthcare facilities, because they are really the ones in the middle of this whole thing. They have to kind of... they have to make all these different ends meet: the care end, the employee end, the reimbursement end, the profit end, if they're going to keep those places open, to your point. And it's hard to maintain quality above all else, given all these massive, massive headwinds. How do you, how have you seen different organizations prioritize those things, either, explicitly or implicitly, and where do they fall short usually?
Primarily, I think we utilize our other resources outside of nursing homes. We have home care and hospice facilities also that help take off some of the pressure. Also, it's being directed that people are taken care of in their homes. Telehealth has been very instrumental and helpful in that. Getting family members involved more than ever, educating them on how to take care of their loved ones. So I think the direction is to eventually, move away from the institution and get into the home. If you're able to have someone take care of you in a safe manner, that's ideally the place where you should be.
Yeah, it's a tough challenge. There's no silver bullet for sure. If you could think back, like you've been in this game for a while, you've seen a lot of these different trends and a lot of these different changes. And this is going to be a hard question, so buckle up. How is where we're at today different from where you thought we would be 10 years ago? 10 years ago, you thought things are going to be at this kind of a place, and I'm sure it's very different than where you thought. In what ways are things different, and like what's kind of most surprising to you?
Well, I think I'm glad to see that the computer systems we've caught up to the system with regards to being able to do things remotely.
Okay.
I think COVID has really helped to bring some of healthcare into the 21st century,
right?
With regards to, how to take care of people remotely, regardless of their needs. But yet some of this age-old things still harbor as far as staffing, having enough nurses and aides to take care of our patients, whether it's a hospital, nursing home, or home health. And I think it's just a matter of us looking out for one another, being your, brother's keeper and looking out for each other. It's really comes back to something as basic as that.
Yeah, that golden rule, everything you need to know about healthcare you learned in kindergarten or something, right? Like
yeah, right.
Be a good person, take care of each other.
Yeah, right. Exactly.
So let's get into our time machine again. And now we're going to go back even further, and we're going to go find a young Kirsten. I love this question because I learned so much from it, but what piece of advice do you wish you had when you were first going into law school or first coming out of high school? Something that you wish, man, if I knew that then, I would be in a totally different spot, or I would have been able to really multiply my impact.
I think trying to go towards the traditional route of when you come out of law school, this is what you should do. Go work for a law firm, get as many clients as you can. Yep. And do well.
Yeah, hop on the rat race. Yeah.
Yeah, right. Get on the treadmill.
Right.
Never stop. But because I didn't pass the bar exam, it diverted me into a direction that was more suitable for me. It worked out for the best. It allowed me to use my healthcare background in a way in which I wasn't even aware of.
Interesting.
So I like to tell as many people as I can in healthcare, this is a open field. Compliance is very open in healthcare and in demand. So if it's something that you're interested in, look into it and see if it's something that you could be a benefit to the field as well as, it help you. But I think things happen the way they should have, and I'm happy for it.
Yeah, I'm sure that lesson was probably a hard one to learn, and it probably took a while. And it took a lot of looking back in the rear view and really, to really kind of recognize. So I'll share a little bit myself. My friend was telling me this story about how he worked so hard for all these years to be a success. He worked really hard to be a success. And it was only recently that he realized that I've already made it. And I probably actually made it I made it 5 or 7 years ago, actually. And all this time I've been chasing this outcome that's been hollow, and I've had it, and I haven't even seen that I've had it, and how much pain and how much anxiety and self-esteem was evaporated away due to not recognizing that, wow, I'm on the right path. I'm already doing the thing that I'm supposed to be doing. It's a really powerful lesson to learn. And it's really something that, I don't know, I've struggled with myself. Like, if I could just do this, then I'll be a success. If I could just do this, then, and it's like, you can't live your life defined by what you think other people think of you. I'm speaking to myself right here. Okay.
Exactly.
But that's a hard thing to learn, because we kind of keep score and I have sort of tended to like keep score and judge myself by like the scoreboard that's up on the wall that like is really kind of a bunch of vanity and a bunch of nothing,
Yeah, I just read where you shouldn't base your success on others, but base it on how you can improve yourself. Where do you want to be, better in your life? The best you. How can you become the best you?
Why do you think that's so hard for us?
I think we just caught up in, it's almost like advertising. This is what you should do, to be successful. I think we just kind of fall into this loop of looking at television or hearing it on the broadcast. This is what somebody successful looks like or sounds like, or is driving or smoking. And it's like, oh, if I smoke that I'll look successful. If I drink this, I'll look successful. Where you're preoccupied with the wrong things instead of working on yourself.
Right. There's an interesting example of that in Elon Musk. So, I mean, it's no secret that I'm not like the biggest Elon Musk guy. But, at the surface, you look at this guy and he's like literally the richest man in the world. Wow, he's buying, social media and has a rocket company and car company and all this stuff. And then you start to like see what this guy's life looks like, and it's kind of crazy. I mean, he's got 20 kids. He doesn't talk to them. Yeah, I mean, it's wild, right? And it's easy for us, to your point, to just see on a two-dimensional screen on Instagram or an advertisement what this picture of success is, without seeing like, well, what's that third dimension look like? What do the relationships look like? What are the multiple facets of that person's life actually look like? And I don't know. It's hard though. It's hard to not get caught up in that, what you called the like advertising thing, because all those advertisements are like built to like attack those insecurities that are in all of us. You know what I'm saying?
Right. It's like that hidden subliminal message. That's what it is. It's like it keeps being thrown at you in different pictures and formats, but it's like, okay, I got to do this. But you're, take heed of what it is that makes you happy. Because I was chasing, I got to pass the bar. Right. It's like, okay, what happens if you don't? What are you going to do? Just give up on life because you have it?
Yeah, right.
It's like, no. You have to take the detour and find out what's on the other street and keep it moving.
Yeah. And, had you passed it, you might have been in a path that's super unfulfilling. You're clearly on a path where you're making a real difference. You're making a difference in patients' lives. Who knows? To the extent that you've saved people's lives because you've kept a location compliant that allowed for someone to get the care they needed and, have that sort of quality of life at the end of their life, or whatever it might be, And when you couple that with this other thing, which I find so bizarre, and I just keep getting bit by this same snake over and over again, is just how anticlimactic everything in life is. You know what I'm saying? It's like, I remember reading about this boxer who, his whole life, he had pictures of boxers on his champion boxers on his wall. He'd be waking up at 5 and running and, striving his whole life, got the gold medal, striving his whole life to become, to get the belt, and like how depressed he got after he got the belt, because it's like, well, now what? Because everything's so anticlimactic. You wake up that next day, or you hear millionaires talk about this. A millionaire says, oh, I was striving, my whole family fell apart. I just wanted to hit this number. And then they hit the number and they feel just like they felt the day before and 5 years before and 20 years before. None of it changes. None of these things actually end up filling you up or end up like changing anything. And yet I keep, I stay on this treadmill,
I know. Eventually, you become more mature and older and wiser. It literally hits you. It's like, what am I doing?
Yeah, well, hopefully one day I'll step off of this treadmill. You know what I mean?
I know. I know. I remember when thought I could save the world. In my 20s, and it's like you get older and live life, and you're like, okay, I got to reevaluate my goals.
Totally.
Yeah. The millennials, I think, have it figured out. Just staying on the grind, staying on the treadmill is not the goal in life.
Right.
It's self-fulfillment and satisfaction
Yeah,
It just looks different than what we're used to. Some of it I'm not familiar with. I just have to observe.
Yeah, what do you think that is? What do you think is at the root of that sort of more well-roundedness or a goal of a
I thought
more
we'd
sort
be
of
happier. I thought people would be more happy, and more satisfied. But you hear still there's a lot of anxiety, depression going on. I think we still let social media put us on that treadmill even faster than we were before social media came about. And we're hitting those low points faster because there's so much information coming at us. We don't know how to recover and process it. And we just become
Right.
overwhelmed in it. And it's like you have to detach and just kind of center yourselves and figure out what will make me happy outside of looking at anybody else's life and how well they're doing. What can I do for myself to make me feel good?
Imagine if happiness is found in a Nokia phone. All you have to do is get one of those old Nokias off of eBay. Then you're not going to be on Instagram. You're not going to be bombarded with the tweets and the notifications. You're texting old school, which makes you just make phone calls. You know what I'm saying? Imagine that. Yeah. Imagine if that's the key to it all.
Yeah.
That would
You'd probably be a little happy. You probably would be a little happier.
Yeah.
What they call ignorance is bliss.
Yeah.
There's something to that, right?
Well, I have a daughter who's she's like 4, and it's easy at this time, at least for me, to be like caught up in all the, it's crazy. Everything, there's always something going on, and not appreciate this like special time we have, and like everything's magic to her. Everything, she's excited about everything, and it's like what a way to be.
I know.
Not jaded by the world yet. It's such like a special age because she's turning into her own person, but I don't know. It's just she's so full of joy. It's like, how do we keep that? How do we bottle that? And give me some of that. You know what I'm saying?
14-month-old great grandchild that has really recently come into our life, and
wow,
it's just exciting to see how she just lights up when she sees you, and it's like I light up when I think, what can I do to keep her safe and keep her comfortable. It's like you don't even want to see her teething. Like, oh my God, she's teething. What can I do to help lighten her pain?
Right. That's maybe that's why we have them to remind us so we don't get so caught up in all the mess of it all. You know what I'm saying?
That's true. Yeah.
So let's look in our crystal ball. You got your crystal ball handy?
Yeah.
Let's look in your crystal ball, and it's 10 years from now. Where do you think we're at? How has the game changed? How has your job changed? How have the risks that we're surfing through changed?
I think 10 years from now, I would hope that people will be able to self-identify some of these issues without someone auditing them per se or bringing it to their attention. That would be an ideal situation 10 years from now, to the point I don't have a job. Mm-hmm. I hate to say it, but that would be an ideal situation where people say, oh, okay, these are things I should do and these are things I can't do, and without someone always standing over them pointing out to them.
Right.
So that's the way I would, if it were to be an ideal world, utopia, right?
Yeah, it could be a
there'd be no compliance officers, right?
Yeah, but to do that, there'd have to be no turnover, which means that everybody would have to have like work, told where to work. You can only work here and you can never leave. Maybe that's the answer.
Yeah, that's right. That'd be perfect too. Exactly. You'll be so satisfied you'll never want to go anywhere else.
Yeah, exactly. Well, this was a fun conversation. Thanks so much for joining us today on the Ethics Experts. Where can people find you, Kirsten?
I am on LinkedIn.
No, I need your address. I'm kidding.
Oh, you want? I'm kidding.
No.
Okay. You can find me on LinkedIn under my name. I'm actually on Facebook, but it's under my personal name, Kirsten Taylor-Billups. And I think that's it. That'll get you to me. Yeah, that'll be it.
Very good.
CommonSpirit Health. You can always look at their directory and find me.
Cool. Very good. Well, thank you so much for spending some of your day with us. This was a lot of fun. Until next time.